Hello, and welcome to this episode of FlyBy, presented by the National Model Aviation Museum. I'm your host, Claire, and today we're taking some pictures with Luther Hux's Snapshot 1. Today it seems like shots taken from the sky are just about everywhere, from movies to house hunting websites. With the ease of digital cameras, wireless connections, and multi-rotors, just about anyone, with a little practice, can get a stunning shot. Aerial photography is nothing new. The first surviving picture, taken from a tethered balloon, dates to 1860. Aerial photography was also not unpopular. Luther Hux reports that he spoke to many people trying it in various methods during the 1970s and 1980s. Aerial photography, though, is an art, and it is one that Luther Hux elevated beginning in 1977. Inspiration came from a construction article on the Sparrow, which appeared in American Aircraft Modeler September 1973. Sparrow was a half-size version of a larger aircraft being designed by the Flight Dynamics Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. The larger aircraft was outfitted with a 160-inch wing. The end goal was that this was going to be a remotely piloted vehicle capable of not only taking aerial photos and videos, but also carrying weather equipment or other payloads. The smaller example was an engineering prototype and test bed for the remote photography video system. The article's author deemed the experiment a success and shared the half-sized plane specs and construction information with the public because a model of this design is published, or possibly as an enlarged version, might be useful to a modeler interested in performing experiments of his own or in taking in-flight movies. Luther Hux took up the challenge and then some, but before we look at his Snapshot 1, let's take a quick moment to compare how the Sparrow's design relates to UAVs like the Mastiff, which was first used in 1973, as well as the later Pioneer and Hunter UAVs. All are pushers, allowing for an unobstructed view from the aircraft's nose, and all feature the twin booms and vertical stabilizers connected by the single horizontal stabilizer. Luther's Snapshot 1 mimics the Sparrow's design and benefits from the same features as the more modern UAVs. Luther did make some changes though. Most notably, he shortened the wingspan to 64 inches in order to fit the aircraft in his car. Additionally, Luther built the model out of plywood and balsa rather than fiberglass. Finally, he wanted proof that the shots were being taken by a model airplane, so he created a second camera bay under the left wing. Finding the camera was one of the first challenges Luther faced. It couldn't be heavy since the model needed to be able to lift it, and it had to be inexpensive so Luther's wallet could afford it. It also needed to meet some technical specifications with the exposure settings and automatic film advance. The camera chosen was what he referred to as a Canon Dial-O-Matic, but is more correctly known as the Canon Dial-35-2. To protect the camera during flight, Luther built a plywood box that fit into the camera bays in the nose. As you can see, Luther was innovative and budget-minded for the padding because he used carpet sample squares. According to him, these were perfect. The foam added crash and vibration protection, but did not compress too much during a crash, and the carpet surface allowed the camera to slip in and out of the compartment easily, while still allowing for all of the protrusions on the camera's body. Once the model was built and the camera installed, Luther soon faced other challenges, mainly taking pictures while guessing at its view. There was no wireless camera feeds in 1977. Instead, Luther learned to tell how far away the model was by its size and marked out the view he wanted with landmarks on the ground. He set up for a picture by placing Project Snapshot at the required distance before lining it up with the pre-planned landmarks. One of the channels on his transmitter was for the shutter release, and clicking a button on the transmitter clicked the button on the camera. Luther spent hours and many rolls of film practicing photographing local flying fields. He was getting the hang of the camera, but he was bored and wanted to photograph, well, anything else. Luther began hunting for interesting places to photograph from the air. After contacting them, many of these locations were intrigued, and after guaranteeing that Luther had safety factors in place, allowed him to fly above their property. It was then that Luther realized that the heavy wing loading and long takeoff of the Snapshot 1 was not able to do the job in the parking lots and fields Luther wanted to fly from to get the really interesting shots. His camera too needed an upgrade, as the half-frame photo size of the Canon was just too small for his purposes. Snapshot 2 took shape around a modified Goldberg Senior Falcon and an Olympus RC camera. Snapshot 2 proved to be a rugged worker and took most of the images that Luther is famous for. Luther eventually built a Snapshot 3, again based on the Sparrow design, but this time focusing on building the model better to make it lighter and to appear more streamlined. Eventually, in about 1985, Luther moved on to other projects, but the images he captured can still be enjoyed in back issues of Model Aviation or on the museum's blog.